Greetings, humans! Halloween is nearly upon us, which means that stores everywhere are awash with cheap, low-quality costume pieces. Now, these pieces in and of themselves are not terribly worthwhile. However, for those of us who have a lot of cosplay ideas but not a lot of money with which to execute them, these tacky displays can actually be a treasure trove of cosplay materials that can be pulled apart and repurposed to turn the mediocre into something magnificent, or at least decent.
I'm starting by looking at the Halloween displays in Walmart.
Some of these weapons have the potential to be repainted into something else. Some of these actually are quite sturdy plastic. So these are pretty cool. You could repaint these, you could attach other things to them to adjust them. You know, same thing going on with these weapons here. These are a little flimsier, but you know, some terrible looking plastic swords like this could very easily be repainted to be something not terrible. The same is going to be true of swords like this, or these little ninja swords going on here. They're not amazing, but you could do a lot with them. We've got some things like some deer antlers here that the ears and the headband that go with them are pretty garbage, but you could very easily take those antlers and attach them to something else. Most of these costumes are child-sized, so they're not going to be useful for most people. But you get a few things like wigs that I've discovered that Walmart wigs are actually not terrible. They're certainly not amazing, but they're not atrocious. We've got more wigs over here. I've used a couple of these in the past and they actually come out pretty well. So, you know, to spend $10 on a wig and, you know, be able to style that and get some decent results out of it is pretty good, especially if it's for a one-off costume. They usually have some hats here, which are, you know, they're fairly cheap kind of hats, but again, those can very easily be dressed up. You know, this could turn into a great steampunk hat. They have a few that are already designed to be steampunk. The goggles, again, are pretty garbage, but those could be repainted, change out the strap from elastic to leather, and you could get some really great results there. The cowboy hats, well, I don't know. But some of these masks here also are actually pretty decent quality rubber latex that can be repainted to create some really cool effects. I wouldn't wear any of these painted the way they currently are, but, you know, take this clown mask and repaint it to look more realistic. We've got a pretty cool skull cat thing that can actually move its jaws. I might need to acquire one of those to turn into a dragon mask, or possibly this one instead. The animals usually have pretty garbage fake fur. I'm not sure you can do a whole lot with those, but yeah, you never know. If you dressed it up right, combed out the fur a little bit, you might be able to get some decent effects from that. And here, of course, we have the makeup section, which is always kind of hit or miss. They always have a lot of this super cheap cream makeup, which does not have good coverage at all. But one thing that is nice is they'll have a lot of latex stuff that you can take and repurpose. My favorite thing is that they always have these entire jars full of liquid latex. It's not the highest quality, but it's something that you can do a lot of different effects with. Sometimes the body paint is pretty decent quality as well. I've used it a couple of times and it's not great, but it's all right. This stuff too, not great. It's just grease makeup, but you can actually get some decent effects from it. This costume right here, my sister painted herself red with this stuff and it came out pretty well. You know, the makeup stuff, if you're gonna go with makeup, a lot of times it's better to get decent quality stuff, but you know, if you have no budget, this stuff's not bad and you can use it and it's decent. These guys here, these little crystal gem adhesive kits, these can be really awesome. The adhesive that they include is usually pretty garbage, but if you have some spirit gum, these are some pretty cool things that you can attach with spirit gum. And that brings us over here to all these little random props. The horns are what I always look for because they usually have some pretty decent ones here. Now these particular ones are not great. They're just sort of this soft rubber material, but you know, you could do something with them. I've done a lot with these deer antlers in the past. I have a few pairs of these that I've cut down, reshaped, repainted, and this year we have one here that I actually haven't seen before. These, I'm gonna need to get myself a pair or two of these because these are some really great shaped horns and they're made out of a very firm foam here. The headband's not great, but those are some really nice horns, and for $8, that's a better deal than I'd get just about anywhere else. Usually these things are not much worth the trouble, but you know, you could do some stuff with that. You could easily change out the stones. The wings are never worth it. These are these rip in like 5 seconds, so I don't advise trying to do anything with these wings. But there are some, you know, some little handcuffs, some suspenders, neck gloves that can definitely be paired with other things and come out decently. So none of this stuff is amazing, but all of it, well, a lot of it, can be used to create something better than what's here on the shelf. And I've done a lot of that, of taking some of these things and repurposing them. And I think I'm gonna have to grab a few of these things and do a video or two sort of showing how you can use these cheaper things to get some pretty decent results if you have no budget but you have the time to fiddle around with stuff. I've moved to the dollar store, whose offerings tend to be even scantier than Walmart's, but even so, there might be a few things that we can find here that will be useful. So we have a lot of kitschy decor decorations. Looks like they've stripped out here pretty well, but I'm seeing these little skeleton bats, which I'm not personally interested in bats, but I could repurpose these to make some pretty cool mini dragons, especially since we have a moving jaw and head articulation. The rest of it doesn't articulate, but that's pretty cool. I think I could definitely do something with these. Foam pumpkins, little ghosts, not worth much. Then we get to these skeleton hands. Now, they're pretty cheap. They're not articulated, but they are already shaped as bones and have some rough coloring, which obviously could be repainted. But I have used these before to make things that needed to look like bone. So you can definitely cut these apart and use them for interesting things. We have some mermaid bikini tops. That's actually some pretty decent fake shells there that could very easily be repainted to look more interesting. We have a little bit of fake hair here, obviously not enough to actually make a decent wig, but I have actually used these as hair rats before. You kind of ball it up and shove it into the wig or the hair that you're trying to do up, and it adds some more volume and looks like hair instead of actually showing bits of netting or stuffing through. So not much on offer here at the dollar store, but I am definitely going to cut a couple of those little skeleton bats and see if I can't rework those into some kind of little mini dragon that can ride on my shoulder. So now I'm headed home with the items that I got, and look forward to a couple more videos coming up in the next few weeks showing what I end up doing with all these things. So you know the drill, like, subscribe if you want to see more of it. Until then, fare thee well.